that is that you can do whatever you want to do and there are no repercussions. Then the rule book goes on to now say, if you don't do certain things, these are the consequences. I want you to bear something in mind. This, today, distinguished Senator Natasha went and sat at her allocated seat. Why? Because she recognizes that the point of order that she wants to make today, she will not be able to make it except she sits at her seat. Except she sits at her seat. Now, that for me shows that it is an admission that what she did before today was wrong. Let us put things in perspective. If she felt that what she did the other day was right, she would have sat at the same seat and raised the point of order. So even her action today shows that the Senate has done the proper thing.
Well, welcome to the committee room of Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition of the Senate. As you all are aware, we are here on the referral from the floor based on our rules to look into a matter that has been referred to us by one of our colleagues, distinguished Senator Adaramadu, against one of our distinguished colleagues as well, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. We waited. Unfortunately, she's not here, but I hope that as we continue this procedure, that she will join us. Before I continue, may I allow my colleagues to introduce themselves to you, and then you will introduce them when we get to you. Okay. Now, there is a procedure that we follow in this committee. We do not on our own pick up any petition and then sit on it. Every petition is referred to us by the whole Senate. Once a petition is laid on the floor and is referred to the committee, then committee has the power now to sit on those matters. The matter before us today is the matter that was referred to us on the 25th February 2025, on issue that happened February 25th, 2025, by one of our distinguished senators, Senator Adeyemi Raphael Adaromodu, who moved a motion on the incident of disorder caused by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan during plenary on Thursday, 20th February 2025, over the reallocation of her seat. The Senate deliberated on the matter and thereafter referred it to this committee for further legislative action. And this is the reason why we're here, and nothing more and nothing less. Like I said before, I hope that distinguished Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan will join us as we deliberate on this matter. But I will yield this microphone to the motion, to the maker of the motion, distinguished Senator Adeyemi Raphael Adaromodu, to one, introduce himself, and secondly, to address this committee on his motion upon which we are all seated. Senator Adaromodu, over to you.
Yes. Consequently and subsequently, I am the spokesman for the 10th Senate of the 10th Assembly of the Federal Republic, National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Like Mr. Chairman has stated, I, as the image maker of the Senate, was seriously miffed and quite discomfited with the state of the odious reputation that the Senate is degenerating into, and the public opprobrium that is being generated by the behavior of one of us at the plenary on February 20, 2025. And as the image maker of the Senate, I started receiving a lot of calls, both locally, nationally, and internationally. Consequently and subsequently, I am the spokesman for the 10th Senate of the 10th Assembly of the Federal Republic, National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Like Mr. Chairman has stated, I, as the image maker of the Senate, was seriously miffed and quite discomfited with the state of the odious reputation that the Senate is degenerating into, and the public opprobrium that is being generated by the behavior of one of us at the plenary on February 20, 2025. And as the image maker of the Senate, I started receiving a lot of calls, both locally, nationally, and internationally, and even exponentially from even members of my own family, that what is happening in the Senate. It became quite very difficult for me to even address the deluge of those demands that I have to talk and tell the public what really happened. And on that said day, February 28th, Thursday, 2025, at the Senate, in the plenary, in the chamber of that day, that was almost a breakdown of law and order in the chamber. That there was almost a kind of legislative topsy-turvy. Because one of us, Senator Natasha was vehemently opposing the directive that her seat has been changed to somewhere else within the chambers. And she was duly informed by the sergeant at her, but she did not go to that assigned seat. And when we go by our orders, because like I said on the floor of the Senate, when I was moving the said motion, that we have our standing orders, which are our rules, our statutes. It's our internal constitution. Because we are empowered by the various sections of the Constitution, that is the National Assembly, to make our own rules that will guide us, since we are not barbarians, since it is not an animal farm. And even in an animal farm, there is a modicum of decency and decorum. The standing orders clearly stated how, where, when, why a senator will behave in the chambers, even almost outside the chambers too, because it stipulated our actions at committee levels and then oversight functions. And going by section, by order 6 of that our standing rules, which are our orders, whereby it was expressly stated, statutorily stated, vividly stated, exponentially stated, that the Senate President is the only consenting authority that can allocate seats for senators. And the following section stated that the senator can only speak when he or she is properly seated on the seat allocated to him or her. Meaning that does not mean that wherever you are in the Senate chamber, that you can raise up your hand to be recognized to speak. If it is like that, it means that the rest 108 can just be speaking from wherever. And then it means that any senator can be at Wuse Market and raise up his hand, and maybe through video coverage and tell the presiding officer that I'm raising my hands up here. You have to recognize me. So that is kind of anomaly that order is trying to cure. And we all subscribe to our orders. So on the third day, there was an uproar because our own colleague, our dear colleague, Senator Natasha refused to go to the seat that was newly allocated for her. And the Senate President, who was presiding that day, directed that she should properly sit where she is allocated to be before she can raise a point of order, because our colleague was raising a point of order hinging it on the permission, the express permission of Order 10. And we all know that we are going to count 6 before we can count 10. And we all know, like I said, that Order 6 stipulates that you can only talk where you are supposed to sit. Where you are supposed to sit. No wherever that you can talk. And so, if you are not in order, you cannot raise a point of order. And that day, it expressly showed, statutorily showed, that our colleague was not in order. So she cannot raise a point of order. But she vehemently wanted to raise the order, which brought the presiding officer not even to invoke all the other powers that is written in our order book, that the presiding officer can even order a senator out if that senator is going to rancorously affect the business of the legislation. But this order was not invoked by the presiding officer. Tension rose up. Senators started appeasing our own colleague to obey the directive of the presiding officer, which at the end of the day was not obeyed. And nothing happened. But fortunately, the leader of the caucus from Kogi, that day, on behalf of the Kogi senators, which our own colleague belonged to, apologized on behalf of said senator and Kogi's caucus, which the Senate took with equanimity. Unfortunately, the media has already picked it, the public has already picked it, and then it became a kind of very sordid debate, astonishing, demeaning, perilous, pernicious. Wait, outside the Senate. And then I, Senator Yemi Adarabodu, the spokesperson of the Senate, have to be at the receiving end. I started holding the longer side of the stick, which is too heavy for me to bear. And now I had to come to the Senate, to the floor. And I raised it, that yes, you have to come to Macedonia and assist the inhabitants of Macedonia. And I raised the motion that unless something is done to instill discipline and strict adherence to our orders and rules, that if we are permitted as senators who are lawmakers to keep breaking our own internal laws, then how are we going to handle those people that are breaking the laws that we are making for Nigeria and Nigerians? So because of this, I raised a motion which comprised of my report over what I experienced for a very hot, unsalacious 4 days, including a big weekend that I'm supposed to have my arrest. So, and then this culminated.
But let me again put on record that our distinguished colleague, Senator Natasha was properly notified of this meeting, and to also further let you know that she was on the floor of the Senate today, and she contributed to the proceedings of today, and it was also announced on the floor of the Senate that this meeting was going to hold at 2 o'clock at this venue, room 120. Again, I'm hoping that she will be here to give us her side of the story. Before I would like to yield to the chairman of the Committee on Rules and Business to give us analysis of what he has for the committee. Chairman, please, over to you.
The colleagues, gentlemen of the press, my name is Senator. In order that Nigerians will know, the truth of the whole scenario surrounding the recent development concerning our colleague, distinguished Senator Natasha, with regards to the statements she made on television a few days ago concerning her allegation that she has been deliberately suppressed by the Senate President from carrying out her duties, part of which she claims is the reason for her anger. I want to draw our attention to the fact that the Senate institution is highly regulated, including the way we participate in proceedings and even our dress codes. It is a highly regulated institution, and we are regulated by this red book called Senate Standing Orders. And by virtue of my position as the chairman of the Committee on Rules and Business, I stand to protect the rules of the Senate and to ensure that the rules are enforced at all sittings of the Senate. I want to draw our attention to Senate Standing Order Rule 1, which says the proceedings in the Senate and in all committees, in order that Nigerians will know the truth of the whole scenario surrounding the recent development concerning our colleague, distinguished Senator Natasha, with regards to the statements she made on television a few days ago concerning her allegation that she has been deliberately suppressed by the Senate President from carrying out her duties, part of which she claims is the reason for her anger. I want to draw our attention to the fact that the Senate institution is highly regulated, including the way we participate in proceedings and even our dress codes. It is a highly regulated institution, and we are regulated by
here. Since you are making a presentation to us, we will respectfully request you to sit over there.
Yeah, I'm properly guided, and let me go efficiency at the Ajaokota Steel Company Limited and the National Iron Ore Mining Company, located in Kogi State, ably moved by Senator Akpoji, Udwan and Natasha, Kogi Central. the chairman, Senate Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct, and Public Petitions, National Assembly Complex, Abuja. The Senate Committee on Rules and Business acknowledges concerns raised during Senator Akpoti Uduaghan's interview on Arise News Channel on February 28, 2025, where she accused the Senate President of deliberately delaying her legislative duties. Given the importance of transparency and procedural integrity in legislative processes, the committee deems it necessary to clarify the facts surrounding her motion on the investigation of alleged corruption and inefficiency at Ajaokuta Steel Company Limited and the National Iron Ore Mining Company. Contrary to claims of deliberate suppression, the motion followed standard legislative procedures. On Wednesday, February 7, 2024, Senator Natasha raised a point of order pursuant to Senate Orders 41 and 51, seeking an investigation into corruption and inefficiency at the Ajaokuta Steel Company, and she requested the immediate presentation of her motion. However, due to a scheduled security briefing involving service chiefs, the National Security Advisor, the Minister of Defense, Police Affairs, and Interior, as well as the Inspector General of Police, the Senate deferred the motion to the next legislative day. The security briefing continued until February 13, 2024. The motion was subsequently rescheduled for debate on February 21, February 22, and 27, 2024. It was eventually debated and resolved on February 27, 2024. In the light of the above, the committee affirms that all motions appearing on the Senate order paper undergo approval by the Senate President. The motion moved by Senator Natasha Akpoti was scheduled through the standard legislative process. Contrary to allegations that it was debated because the Deputy Senate President was presiding, the Senate President had approved it for consideration under Orders 41 and 51 on February 7, 2024. The scheduling of motions follows procedural rules and is subject to time constraints during plenary sessions. The position of motions on the order paper often results in their deferment when Senate sittings exceed beyond allocated time. The motion on Ajaokuta Steel and NEOMCO was affected by these procedural realities. As a question of legislative scheduling and setting the Senate's priorities, the committee emphasized that motions and legislative measures appearing on the order paper are not automatically deliberated upon on the same day. Legislative priorities and time constraints influence the deliberation of motions. Urgent matters such as requests from Mr. President, issues of national security, or closed-door sessions often take precedence and can lead to rescheduling. This procedural reality was evident in the handling of Senator Akpoti's motion, which was deferred on some occasions before it was finally debated upon. Such occurrences are common in parliamentary proceedings and do not reflect bias or an attempt to suppress any legislative contributions. In retrospect, since assuming office as Senator for Kogi Central, Senator Akpoti has exercised her legislative mandate effectively. She has sponsored 3 bills, one of which is at the committee stage, while the other 2 have passed the first reading. She also moved a motion on the passing of the Ohinoe of Ibiraland, Dr. Abdurrahman Ado Ibrahim. The committee reiterates that every senator is accorded fair and equal opportunities to contribute to legislative debates. The case of Senator Udwan is no exception. The Senate remains committed to upholding its procedural integrity and ensuring that all senators, regardless of seniority, are given avenues to engage meaningfully in the legislative process. Notwithstanding, the Senate Committee on Rules and Business plays a key role in structuring the legislative agenda. The process of scheduling motions, bills, and debates is guided by established parliamentary procedures. It is standard practice for motions to be rescheduled based on the availability of time and the urgency of other national issues. The committee ensures that all motions follow due process and are subjected to deliberation in a structured manner. Therefore, the claim that certain motions are given preferential treatment or suppressed does not align with parliamentary norms. The scheduling of Senator Akpoju Uduaghan's motion followed established Senate rules, and any delays were due to normal legislative rescheduling constraints. With the facts clearly expressed, the Senate Committee on Rules and Business assures the public that due process was followed in the handling of Senator Akpoju Uduaghan's motion. The motion was approved by the Senate President, scheduled for deliberation in line with the standard procedures, and eventually debated on February 27, 2024, and was thereafter referred to an ad hoc committee constituted for that purpose, headed by Senator Adegbumire. The delays were procedural and not indicative of any attempt to suppress our motions. The Senate remains committed to transparency, accountability, and fairness in our proceedings. All senators, regardless of experience, are provided the necessary support to navigate the legislative process effectively. The case of Senator Akpoju Uduaghan underscores the procedural realities of parliamentary operations and the importance of patience in navigating legislative engagements. Thank you, and may God bless you. I am Senator Titus Zam.
Present their report to the committee. I will call on Sergeant at Arms Tido Epo.
I'm already ahead. I, Senator Yemi Adarabodu, representing South Central District, and by the grace of God and benevolence of my colleagues, the Senate spokesperson, do solemnly swear that the evidence that I've given and that I shall continue to give before this distinguished committee shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God and humanity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who was at the plenary on the day of this incident to present his report officially?
I, Mukhtar Usman Daudawa, do solemnly swear that the evidence I shall give before this distinguished committee shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Amen. Answer.